Hello, everyone. These gamers didn't lose the game. They lost their lives. These are the deadliest gaming mistakes ever. The Wii Fit Incident. On December 28, 2009, 25-year-old Tim Ease from Sittingbourne, Kent, received a Nintendo Wii Fit as a Christmas present. Excited to try it, he began using the console's fitness programs on Boxing Day. Family members later reported that he exercised intensely for several hours with the balance board and aerobic minigames. That evening, after finishing a workout, he complained of chest pains and shortness of breath. His mother urged him to rest. Minutes later, he collapsed in the living room. Paramedics were called immediately. Despite resuscitation attempts, he was declared dead at the scene. An inquest found that Tim had suffered a sudden cardiac arrhythmia. Though rare, doctors noted that strenuous physical activity can sometimes trigger fatal heart irregularities in young adults. The case was widely reported in the UK as the first known death linked to Wii Fit activity. The Pokémon electrocution. On July 9, 2017, in Iloilo City, Philippines, a 12-year-old boy was playing Pokémon Go with friends. They wandered near a construction site while searching for digital creatures. The boy, holding his phone, climbed onto a metal structure close to overhead power lines. Witnesses said he lost his balance and reached out for support. His hand made contact with a live electrical cable. A loud crack followed, and he collapsed instantly. Friends screamed for help, and bystanders rushed over. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but the boy showed no signs of life. He was pronounced dead from electrocution. Authorities confirmed that he had been distracted by the game, which led him into a dangerous area. The accident was covered by local news outlets and cited as part of a series of Pokémon Go-related fatalities worldwide, where players focused on the screen entered dangerous environments. The Call of Duty swatting. On December 28, 2017, two Call of Duty players in the United States got into an online argument over a $150 wagered match. One player, Casey Viner, asked another, Tyler Barris, to swat his opponent by calling police to his address. Barris dialed 911 in Los Angeles and reported a fake hostage situation in Wichita, Kansas. The address he gave was not his rival's, but belonged to 28-year-old Andrew Finch, who had no connection to the dispute. Police surrounded Finch's home. When he opened the door, officers ordered him to raise his hands. Confused, he moved slightly, and an officer fired a single shot. Finch was killed instantly in front of his family. The case shocked the gaming world. Barris was later sentenced to 20 years in prison, while Viner received a shorter sentence. The Lineage 2 incident. On March 29, 2005, in Shanghai, two friends, Chu Chong-yuan and Zhu Kao-yuan, played the online game Lineage 2. Chu loaned Zhu a powerful virtual sword, the Dragon Saber. Weeks later, Zhu sold it for 7,200 yuan without permission. Furious, Chu demanded its return. When Zhu refused, Chu reported the theft to police. At the time, Chinese law did not recognize virtual property as real, and no charges were filed. On the evening of March 29th, Chu confronted Zhu in person. The argument escalated into violence. Chu drew a knife and stabbed Zhu repeatedly. Zhu died from his wounds. Chu was arrested at the scene. In June 2005, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. The killing became one of the first high-profile cases linking disputes over virtual items to real-world homicide, sparking debate in China over the value and legal status of digital property. The Counter-Strike incident. On February 26, 2010, in Chongqing, China, Two men in their 20s sat in an internet cafe playing Counter-Strike. They began to argue over strategy and insults in the game. Witnesses said the argument grew heated, with both shouting loud enough to attract attention across the room. One man stood up and pushed the other. Staff intervened and briefly separated them, but the fight continued outside the cafe. The aggressor grabbed a knife and stabbed his opponent multiple times in the chest and abdomen. Bystanders called for help, but the victim collapsed on the pavement before paramedics arrived. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police quickly arrested the attacker, who admitted to losing his temper during the argument. The killing was widely reported in Chinese media as another example of internet cafe disputes turning deadly. Local authorities used the case to highlight the growing problem of violence connected to online gaming in public spaces. The VR incident. On December 21, 2017, a 44-year-old man in Moscow, Russia, was at home using a virtual reality headset. He moved through his apartment while immersed in the game, unaware of obstacles around him. Investigators later determined that he stumbled while playing and crashed directly into a glass table. The impact shattered the surface, slicing deep into his body. Alone in the apartment, he was unable to call for help. Neighbors reported hearing a loud crash but did not enter. Hours later, family members found him lying in the living room surrounded by broken glass. He had bled to death from severe wounds to his head and neck. Moscow authorities confirmed the accident, noting that it was one of the first recorded cases of a fatality linked directly to the use of a VR headset. The unusual circumstances attracted international attention, with headlines highlighting the hidden dangers of playing immersive games in unsafe environments. The Halo Incident. On October 20, 2007, in Wellington, Ohio, 16-year-old Daniel Petrick argued with his parents after they confiscated his copy of Halo 3. They had locked the game in a safe, believing he had become dangerously addicted. While they were out, Daniel discovered where the key was hidden and retrieved both the game and his father's pistol. When his parents returned, he confronted them in the living room. He asked them to close their eyes, saying he had a surprise. Instead, he raised the pistol and fired. His mother, Susan, was killed instantly. His father, Mark, was shot in the head, but survived. Daniel attempted to frame his father by placing the gun in his hand. Paramedics arrived quickly and saved him. Daniel was arrested and later sentenced to 23 years to life in prison. The case shocked the United States, raising questions about violent video games and teenage obsession. The Pokémon Cliff. On September 7, 2016, two men in Tokushima Prefecture, Japan, were playing Pokémon Go along a coastal path. The mobile game, which used GPS and augmented reality, had become a global sensation only weeks earlier. Players often followed the app into unfamiliar areas while chasing virtual creatures. That afternoon, the men, aged 21 and 22, walked together while staring at their phones. The trail narrowed near a steep drop overlooking the sea. Focused on the screen, they failed to notice the edge. Both fell from a height of more than 65 feet. Emergency responders were called immediately by nearby witnesses. One of the men was found alive but badly injured. The other was discovered at the base of the cliff, unresponsive. He was declared dead at the hospital a short time later. Japanese authorities urged players to pay more attention to their surroundings, and the case received wide coverage in national and international media. The GTA Incident. On August 3, 2008, in Bangkok, Thailand, 18-year-old high school student Paul Wino hailed a taxi late at night. When they reached his destination, instead of paying, he pulled a knife and attacked the 54-year-old driver. He stabbed him multiple times before dragging the body from the car and attempting to drive away. Witnesses quickly alerted police, who intercepted him only minutes later. He confessed that he had been playing Grand Theft Auto and wanted to know what it felt like to hijack a car in real life. Investigators said he showed no signs of intoxication or mental illness, only fixation on the game. The teenager was charged with murder and robbery. He was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. Thai authorities responded by temporarily pulling copies of Grand Theft Auto for store shelves, citing the killing as evidence of dangerous influence. The crime received international coverage and became one of the first game-inspired homicides. The League of Legends incident. On November 14, 2012, a 23-year-old man entered an internet cafe in Wuhan, China. He sat at a terminal, logged into League of Legends, and began to play. Staff said he had been a regular customer, sometimes staying for long sessions, but this time he remained in his seat for nearly 23 hours without pause. Other patrons noticed him shifting uncomfortably, rubbing his chest, but he kept on playing. As the morning turned into afternoon, his body weakened. At 3 p.m., he suddenly slumped back in his chair. His arms fell to his side. The mouse slipped from his hand. The attendant rushed over, calling his name, but he was unresponsive. Paramedics were summoned immediately. By the time they arrived, his pulse was faint and irregular. He was transported to a nearby hospital where doctors attempted to resuscitate him. He was declared dead shortly afterward. Medical staff attributed the death to cardiac arrest brought on by fatigue, dehydration, and prolonged immobility. It was one of several such incidents reported in China during that period.
The Pokemon Train. On August 23, 2016, in Tokushima Prefecture, Japan, a 39-year-old truck driver was driving on a rural road while playing Pokemon Go. Distracted by the game, he failed to see two women crossing at a railway intersection. The truck struck both pedestrians. One woman, aged 72, died instantly. The second, aged 60, was rushed to hospital with critical injuries and died shortly afterward. Witnesses said the driver never braked before impact. Police arrested the man at the scene. He admitted he had been playing Pokemon Go behind the wheel. Prosecutors charged him with dangerous driving resulting in death. The case made national headlines in Japan, where the government had already issued public safety warnings about the game. Following the tragedy, Niantic, the game's developer, added new warnings for players not to use the app while operating vehicles. Despite the changes, the Tokushima crash remains one of the deadliest incidents linked to mobile gaming distraction. The Minecraft incident. On July 19, 2015, a 17-year-old boy entered an internet cafe in Pampanga, Philippines. He logged into Minecraft and began what became a marathon session. Witnesses said he played for almost 3 straight days, taking only brief naps at the desk. Staff grew concerned when they noticed he had not eaten properly and had barely moved from his chair. On the 3rd day, as he leaned forward to type, his body went limp. He collapsed onto the keyboard and did not get up again. Friends called for help, and staff attempted first aid. Paramedics arrived but pronounced him dead at the scene. Local doctors later cited cardiac failure linked to severe exhaustion and dehydration after continuous gaming. The World of Warcraft incident. On February 1, 2007, a 26-year-old man walked into an internet cafe in Guangha, China. He sat down, opened World of Warcraft, and began to play. Witnesses later said he barely spoke, only pausing for instant noodles or brief toilet breaks. Day 1 passed, then day 2. He remained in the same seat, eyes fixed on the screen, fingers steady on the mouse.
By the third day, his movements slowed. At 10 a.m., he suddenly slumped forward onto the desk. Other customers thought he had fallen asleep. After several minutes without motion, staff went to check. They shook his shoulder, but he was limp. An ambulance was called. When paramedics arrived, he showed no pulse. Doctors at the nearest hospital declared him dead, citing cardiac arrest linked to extreme exhaustion and dehydration after 3 days of continuous gaming. The StarCraft Incident. On August 5, 2005, 28-year-old Lee Soon-up entered an internet cafe in Daegu, South Korea. He ordered a soda, logged into StarCraft, and began playing. Hours turned into days. Witnesses said he rarely moved from his chair, taking only short breaks to the toilet. By the second night, he had been at the keyboard for nearly 50 hours. His posture sagged, his eyes bloodshot, but he kept clicking. The cafe manager urged him to stop, but Lee shook his head and loaded another match. At dawn on the third day, he suddenly collapsed. Paramedics arrived quickly, but he was unresponsive. At the hospital, doctors confirmed cardiac arrest brought on by exhaustion, dehydration, and blood clotting from immobility. He was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for similar ones, and feel free to drop suggestions for the next video in the comments.